A Kiwi couple have decided to take a break to go on a trip to Sierra Leone. They are aboard a Mercy ship berthed at Freetown in Sierra Leone, volunteering aboard the Mercy ships to make a difference in the lives of the people of that community. Aly and Arnie Hall join me now from Freetown. Guys, kia ora, so wonderful to chat with you today.
Kia ora.
Good morning, Andrew. Nice to see you, bro.
So talk to us about the experience. Now, I was chatting with you before you headed away from New Zealand. This is, 5 weeks ago now, I understand. What's the experience been like, Arnie?
Oh, so we've had 5 weeks on board here, and this ship that we're on is just amazing. It's the first purpose-built Mercy ships. It's the biggest hospital ship, civilian hospital ship. It's got 6 operating theatres. It's there's 200 beds on board, so it's a floating hospital that pulls up to the wharf here. But there's way more to it than that. So there's up to 600 people on board. We're actually working in the dining room of all places. So we can feed 750 people for a lunch. So we're working in the dining room. And so you're in this amazing world that's been created to just really serve and care for the people of Freetown. But you step off of the ship and you step into the 5th poorest nation in the world, the least developed nation in the world. And it's exciting, it's colourful, it makes your heart swell. The people are so welcoming. At the same time, it's heartbreaking. There's things that just really make you ache. So in Sierra Leone, population of 8 million people, there's only 6 surgeons to cover the whole population. So they think about 90% of surgeries just don't happen. So the ships here, they'll do 2,400 surgeries over the next 10 months. And we get to be a small part of that by feeding everyone with breakfast, lunch and dinner every day. So we're just having an amazing time.
That is absolutely fantastic. Now, Aly, you're from a medical background, although in this particular tour of duty, you're serving in the kitchens. But to see the difference that is being made medically in the lives of people. I suppose you're getting to see some of these stories, you're getting to connect with some of the people whose lives are affected. Any particular aspect of that stand out for you?
Yes, so we've been able to see some of the first patients kind of come on board. The first patients only came on board about 2 weeks ago. So the first patient, he had a tumour around his neck. And so there's we're following him a little bit now. So he's been through his surgery and everything went well. So for these patients that have, like tumour removals or cleft lip and palate repairs and those sorts of, or the other common operation we do is ophthalmology, so cataract removals. So with a lot of these surgeries, they are life-changing surgeries for people here. In these African nations, only around 9 out of 10 people don't have access to safe surgery. So, a lot of people are walking around with physical ailments, or they pass away from conditions which surgical treatment could cure, but they're just not able to, they don't have access to medical treatment. So, it's really life-changing, the surgeries that happen here. So, lots of great stories you see on the Mercy Ships Facebook. So,
Yeah, and even though there's 2,400 surgeries that get done, I don't think there's a time we've left the ship where someone hasn't come up to us and said, I've got a mother, I've got an uncle, I've got a daughter who needs some sort of medical care. And while Mercy Ships does an amazing amount, it's really disturbing, really, a little bit to you personally, and it's a challenge to your faith. Then what do you do with those who don't get that? And so we've really been challenged by that, and just how powerful prayer is becomes really important too, and prayer and practical help always go hand in hand, and so that's what we're trying to do.
I was going to ask that, Arnie, actually, because this is your first time on Mercy Ships, and well covered and everything, but to an extent putting yourself in harm's way to bring the love of Jesus to the people of Sierra Leone. What can we pray for, yes, Mercy Ships generally, but for you guys as a couple? What can we here in New Zealand pray for you guys to support you whilst you're in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, to be honest, Andrew, I'd say don't pray for us. We're okay.
Yeah.
It's this country and this nation, and even this continent. It's always been taken advantage of. I think by the rest of the world, in a lot of ways, it's being treated badly. It's a complicated place. There's massive needs here. At the same time, we come across people who love the Lord deeply and dearly, and they're significantly more challenged than we are. So just praying for the Christians in this nation. Leadership too, just unselfish leadership is it's so key in any area of life. A school, a church, a nation needs unselfish leaders and leaders who love the Lord, and that makes a massive difference.
Yeah, certainly. Now, Aly, this isn't your first rodeo, as it were, not your first time on board the Mercy ships. 30 years ago, a 30-year younger version of yourself was on board Mercy ships, and some significant things happened at that time. Now, you and I have talked about this beforehand, but just give us a recap of what a key event which happened for you 30 years ago on Mercy ships, the impact that had on your life.
Okay, so 30 years ago, I just graduated as a registered nurse, and I came on board the Anastasis, which was also docked here in Freetown.
Yep.
So this is very significant for me here, being back 30 years later. It was a very emotional experience when we landed in Freetown. So 30 years ago, I went on a tour of a local hospital. I was here on board working as a nurse, and we went to a local hospital just to kind of check out what the conditions, or just the anaesthetist that was on board asked if we'd like a tour. And so it was myself and some other medical volunteers on board. And so we went and had a look around this hospital. And as we were walking past one of the wards, I heard someone in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And the tour party that we were in just kind of carried on past the room, but I was compelled to actually go in and see and check out what was going on, because I was quite concerned for this person that was in a lot of pain. So I went into the room, and there was a woman that looked in a lot of agony and in the bed, and I asked the nurse what was happening with her, and the nurse explained to me that this woman, whose name was Catherine, had been in labour for the past 4 days.
Wow. And
that she needed a cesarean section, but she had no money to pay for the cesarean section. And so the nurse said to me that she would die and the baby would die. That would be the outcome, and because there was no money. And so, I was pretty shocked by this.
Yeah.
So at that time, I didn't have any money myself. I was kind of on this skin of my teeth, really, being over in Africa. Yep. I'd paid for my own airfares and my living conditions and my living and all that on the ship. So I prayed for her. So I held her hand and prayed for her. And then just shortly after that, the rest of the medical team that I was with caught up with me, and in that team was an anaesthetist called Keith Thompson. Now, Keith offered to pay for Catherine to have her surgery.
Wow. And
so it was, at the time, it was £70. So what's maybe 140 New Zealand dollars. So nothing really for two amazing lives. And so, so Catherine had her baby, and she named it little girl Regina. Yeah. And and so for the next couple of weeks or something, I caught up with her. I'd go and visit her in the hospital. And again, because she couldn't pay for anything, everything had to be paid for, all her any medical supplies that she needed, any food. So we would take her antibiotics, we took her dressing materials, we helped her to breastfeed. So we kind of helped her over the next little while she was in hospital.
Wow, and absolutely.
And then pretty much,
No, I was going to say, an absolutely special bond between you and this little baby girl, who I presume is, about 30 years old now in that regard. I mean, Arnie, you were saying beforehand about how the need is so huge, you cannot help everybody. And sometimes I suppose that paralyzes to saying, well, we get overwhelmed by that. But this is just such a wonderful story of somebody who was able to be helped, and the huge difference that it makes in that person's life and the flow-on impacts. I mean, certainly changed your life, Aly, and the young woman, Catherine, her baby daughter. Give us an update on that situation now, 30 years on. Something pretty special has happened in the last week, right?
Yes. So probably about 18 months ago, I was put in contact with Catherine again.
Yeah.
And I had lost contact with her since that time I was back in Africa. And then from there, we developed quite a close friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, which has been mind-blowing for me, really. And she's had an amazing journey since I'd, last seen her 30 years ago, and that she has ended up by leaving. At the time she fled Sierra Leone, because a lot of you would know that there was a civil war.
Yeah.
It was just beginning to happen when I was here, and so she ended up in Perth. And from Perth, she's actually a nurse,
mm-hmm.
and so we found out that the Global Mercy was going to be in Sierra Leone, and Keith Thompson kind of encouraged both of us to come to Sierra Leone and to meet up here. So that's what's happened over the last couple of days. So Catherine arrived here on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was a very emotional reunion. So very exciting.
Very good. And both nurses. That's fantastic. I hear there's another connection. Her daughter, Regina, she's also a nurse. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So Regina is now a nurse as well. So she's working at a hospital in Perth as well. And she's actually she got married just a couple of years ago, and she has a little baby boy as well. Wow. So so there's another generation as well that wouldn't have been around if God hadn't led me to Catherine. And so we call each other sisters, and we do feel a very strong bond with each other. So yeah.
And because Catherine's had the second chance of life, she's just gone for it. She's gone for it with her faith. She's just purchased half a school here in Freetown that she hasn't even seen until the other day, because she came to faith as a small child at a Christian school. Mm-hmm. And so she wants to repeat that again. So now she's just living her life as if she's been given a second chance, which is really what we all have, the second chance. And so the way she's just living her life, but it was such a privilege to see her and Aly reuniting. There's tears all down the dockside early on a Sunday morning. Yeah. There wasn't a dry eye. It was incredible. No,
that sounds absolutely fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for what you do. Arnie, just wanting to finish with you here. For people that are hearing this story, I mean, we have shared stories before about mercy ships, but this is a rather special one. If somebody listening to this at the moment is saying, you know what, I've heard of mercy ships, I've been praying about whether or not this is something for me, either to invest in, to donate to volunteer as serving. I mean, this is your first time round. What would you say to encourage them to go deeper into that, to pray harder, to plan harder to make this a reality?
Yeah, so I'm a pastor washing dishes on a ship in Africa, and you can do anything on the ship. If you've got computer skills, accounting skills, engineering skills, they will find you somewhere to work. And it's a great place to come and really be challenged in your faith. It's a great place to serve. It's a great place to make a difference. Like, we can't help everyone in Freetown, which is so frustrating, but the simple fact is we can again and again, and we can do it practical, through surgery. We can do it just by praying for someone like Aly did. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, Kiwis can make a difference. And so there's 21 Kiwis on board out of 600. So I think we're the fifth biggest nation in terms of population on board. So we want Kiwis to just really get on board and just come and experience God in an amazing environment. Mercy Ships has looked after us so well, and we've been so challenged by the whole experience.
Absolutely fantastic. Mercyships.org.nz, I seriously recommend it. Also, some reunion photos and video clips and various things. If they're not there already, they're going to be released in the next wee while. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us from Freetown in Sierra Leone on board the Mercy Ship. Arnie, Aly, thank you so much for what you do. Thanks for joining us.